No one ever teaches you about taxes when you're in school, and especially not if you're in music school. I had a bunch of questions on a recent video about how taxes work as a musician, so I'm on my way to a gig right now. I'm gonna try to explain as much as I can in the most entertaining way possible while I'm on this gig. This gig tonight is at this place called Field Day. I'm playing with a trio that Ross Antonich put together. I'm playing on like the roof or something. I do want to say I'm not an accountant. This isn't financial advice. I'm an idiot with a camera and a saxophone. Don't take any of this for anything other than entertainment purposes. Also, I live in the United States and tax laws vary from state to state as well. So please seek professional tax advice from a real accountant for your specific situation. Walk through the front doors and take the elevator. The front doors are not open. Okay. I guess that works. Generally, most of your gigs as a freelance musician, you're gonna be paid as an independent contractor. So with a traditional job, your employer will withhold taxes from your paycheck and pay them to the IRS on your behalf. But when you're an independent contractor, you're responsible for calculating how much tax you might owe and withholding that so that you can pay your giant tax bill the next year. What's up, Ross?
Yeah. 2 in a row.
2 in a row. How are you? Good, dude. I'm much better today than yesterday. You've not been in my... Wait, you were definitely in one of my videos.
Oh,
you were in... I mean, like one of the long form. You were in the... worse, was it? No, it was How to Get Fired.
How to Get Fired.
That was the one.
Yes, which is important to know how
not to get fired, I think was, yeah.
How to not get fired.
But this is Ross Antonich.
What's up, everybody?
On this gig tonight, Ross, the band leader, is gonna pay me $130. Now, like I said, I'm operating as an independent contractor on this gig, so Ross is not responsible for my taxes. I usually use about 30% as a safe amount of what I need to withhold from my gig income. So when I get paid for this gig, I'll set aside $39 in a high interest savings account that I use to keep all of my tax money set aside for when I file taxes next year. So depending on how much you make, you either have to make estimated quarterly tax payments or you have to pay it as a lump sum at the end of the year or the beginning of the year whenever you file taxes. Either way, when that time comes, I use the money that I set aside in that account for my tax bill. Now, the advantage of being an independent contractor is that the IRS allows you to reduce your taxable income by utilizing business expenses. This could be for things like parking. I also did not pay for parking because normally I gamble.
I think you're
parking
fine.
roulette.
After 6, you should be fine.
Yeah, but no, it's Friday.
It is Friday.
But I think the ticket people go home at 5, so I was like, I'll gamble for the next 24 minutes that I won't get a ticket. Or gear insurance, or drumsticks, or reeds, or a music stand, or any other thing that's kind of necessary for your job. Something you wish you knew about taxes when you first started playing gigs.
Okay, something I wish I knew about taxes when I started playing gigs. So many things. Biggest one, that write-offs are your friend. What's a write-off? That could be, depending on your state, where you are, the kind of gig, it could be your mileage, your gas, your airplane tickets, your hotel, your food. It could be, man, during the years, you get staff paper and pencils and tape and scissors and envelopes. Man, you get pens. I lose pens all the time. I buy pens like crazy.
What about drumsticks?
Oh, man, not even. Drumsticks last longer. No, yeah, drumsticks, brushes, cymbals, felts, pedals, drum heads. You can write that all off, so when you go to do your taxes, which are great to be doing, it helps you in the end.
So here's like an oversimplified example that I wrote down so I wouldn't mess any of this up. Let's say I make $10,000 in gig income this year. In order to make money playing gigs on my saxophone, I need reeds. So let's say hypothetically I spend $1,000 on Boston Sax Shop reeds throughout the year. That means I'm able to reduce my taxable gig income to $9,000. So when I'm calculating how much will have to be paid in taxes, it's based on the $9,000 instead of the $10,000 I made because I spent $1,000 on something that was necessary to do my job as a musician. here's another hypothetical as if I'm a band leader. So let's say I book a gig for my video game music band and the venue pays me $1,000. I then pay 4 of my band members $200 each because that's an expense that I needed to play that gig. That leaves me with $200 in income for me, which means I'm not paying tax on that full $1,000 that the venue paid me. And that's also assuming that I didn't have any other expenses around that gig. Now you have to keep track of all of this. If you pay someone over like $600, they have to give you a W-9. There's all these like stipulations. There are a lot of things that can be considered necessary for your job. I can't tell you what those are. If you look into it and if you talk to an accountant, they'll be able to tell you what exactly you can and can't write off. Also, you have to keep very clear record of all of this stuff, so like receipts and stuff like that. Finally, all of this is calculated at the end of the year, so it's not really calculated on a gig-to-gig basis. It's more like you add all the gig income up at the end of the year and you add all the expenses up at the end of the year, and the bottom amount is what you pay taxes on. Yeah. 128 bar form.
100.
I think it's only 64, but. So we're playing on like the roof of this co-working space in Lawrenceville. Here's like one of the floors. So I also have a dedicated business account that I opened underneath my LLC name. So all of my gig income flows into that bank account, and then all of the expenses either come out of that same bank account or they go on a dedicated business credit card. I pay this off in full every month. I'm very anti-credit card debt, but I'm kind of pro credit card. If you use them correctly, you can never pay any interest and still get all of the rewards like cash back and purchase protection and all of that stuff. This is kind of starting to get into the bookkeeping side of things, so I won't go too in depth on that in this video. Basically, I use a software called QuickBooks, and my business bank account and credit card are connected to that software, so all of the transactions immediately are imported into the software and I can then categorize them. I can also take pictures of receipts and upload them to QuickBooks, and it'll automatically attach those receipts to the transactions, so I'm not worried about losing those and I have proof of all of my expenses. It's a great software, but there are kind of a ton of videos about that already. One thing you wish you knew about taxes when you were starting out?
One thing is really hard. I can tell you just generally what I do is I keep like a bunch of spreadsheets of like, you know, if you have a car, your mileage.
Yeah.
Always keep track of that.
One thing I did want to clarify for my last video is how mileage works. Technically, writing off the mileage to and from a gig is a deduction and not an expense. We'll start to get too in the weeds with this, but all you really need to know is that they both reduce your taxable income. Assuming you don't have like a dedicated business vehicle and you're using your vehicle for both personal and business reasons, the IRS doesn't let you deduct like the gas that you put in your car. So like here's another hypothetical example. If I make $100 on a gig and on my way home from that gig, I put $50 worth of gas in my car, I'm still paying tax on that full $100. However, I'm able to deduct the miles that I drove to and from that gig based on the IRS mileage rate that they issue every year. Also, this is allowed because I have a home office, so my home office is considered like where I work out of, because there was some confusion. People thought I was like driving, like I'm driving to the office for my work. That's not the case. Basically, a home office is like a dedicated space where I like store all of my instruments, and also administrative or management activities are conducted at the home, and there is no other location to perform these duties.
Keep track of your expenses, both like small, whatever assets you get. Have like a separate column for small expenses, separate column for large expenses, and just like your parking. Anything related to your business you can write off. That's the really important thing, is that there's actually so much stuff you can write off. Some people take it even farther than I do, like writing off movie tickets for like score study. And I know there's like, if you get paid in cash, a lot of people like don't claim it. Claim it, because if you get audited, like you need to justify every single purchase. It even helps when you're like applying for health insurance and everything, like you need to know your
a car loan,
or an apartment, like anything where you need to know your income. It helps just to be keeping track of that. We just don't make enough money in this to not be writing off everything that we can and not be like doing our due diligence with this. So it's just part of taking it like it's your business, you know, and it's and our business is our livelihood sometimes. Unfortunately, it can be like that. Just like writing the expenses maybe at the end of the week or the end of the day, just so that like when you're in March, you're not just absolutely losing your mind for like 4 hours every night. Like that's probably what I wish I knew, not to do that.
I also had a lot of people asking me, how do you get gigs? How do you start gigging? I made a video about that probably a year and some change ago. I'll link that in the description. I go super in depth. I ask a bunch of people how they did it. I talk about how I did it. That video should be helpful if you're looking to start playing gigs. Also, again, none of this is including my social media income. I kind of treat that as like a separate thing. So some people were commenting, asking like, oh, what about the merch that you were packaging in that video? I kind of treat like the gigs as one thing and my job as a musician, and then the social media as like a separate thing. They're kind of not separate because I'm filming myself on my gigs, but they're kind of two separate sources of income. Speaking of merch, I'll have my website linked in the description. You can buy shirts there, and I'm actually gonna have beanies and hopefully sweatshirts that are launching soon, so they might be out by the time this video goes out, not sure, but keep an eye out for that. Let me know what other tax-related questions you have about being a musician. I'm not really trying to turn into like a finance bro or whatever on YouTube, but I definitely like talking about it, and I'm happy to help people with this because it's so confusing.
Has the internet been behaving today?
Yeah, today's been good to me so far. That's right.
I'm talking to you over there.
Sorry, I'm at like 75% accuracy on that head, but dude, that was so fun.
Dude.
Like a one spot you missed, you got the second time around. So
Yeah,
that's a pretty good batting average.
Yeah.
If I mess something up, I'm always like, well,
That's it for the rest of the tune.
I'm never gonna play it right ever again.